Hello, my name is Angel Maldonado. This is my pre-observation part of the observation video that I have to conduct for the master program in education technology leadership. I will be observing one of my colleagues in the Spanish department. He is a Spanish 1 teacher at the high school level, and this is his third year teaching. This is a great opportunity for me to get to observe him and see his teaching strategies and methods for teaching Spanish. Um, in order to conduct this observation, I have inquired or I've asked a couple of my um, supervisors, mentors, the administrators on what I need to do to in order what things I need to look for in the actual observation. One of the advice they gave me is to really just look at the way whatever I write down to really put examples. For instance, the way he uses technology or the way the students are engaged. I have to give detailed examples of how that is being accomplished. So that's one of the advice that they gave me. Another is to really look and just uh, look at the actual students and how well they are participating and engaged in the lesson. Are they off task or and things like that. And another thing that the administrators provided for me was a checklist, an observation checklist that I could use, a template that I could use to actually look at and make it easier for me to observe the certain criteria that is needed for an observation. And that sheet has all kind of stuff. Um, for example, part of this sheet here has the purpose, the focus area, um, and the evidence that is needed to conduct an observation, such as what does the teacher do, what does the student or what are the students doing, and what does the work of the students look like. Um, Also, part of this checklist has all kind of evidence formatting here, like for instance, how is instruction being differentiated, um, the lesson design, what type of instruction is being given, whether it's teacher-led or student-led, classroom discussions, and then how does the teacher is able to is checking for actual understanding, is he giving verbal questionings, monitoring student practice, um, and stuff. And so, and other things that, like I mentioned before, was how is he incorporating technology? Today's students are really engaged in technology, and so it's a great method if used correctly to engage the students. So, um, for instance, what technology resources are being used by the teacher to enhance teaching and learning? Technology equipment used by a teacher to enhance lesson delivery, whether it's using computer, document camera, projector, audio, smartboard, what online tools is he using to teach the class. Other students are being other students are being taught the traditional way where it's just a book or just teacher lecturing. So those are the kind of things that this checklist for the observation should help me out and looking for these things. So I really like this actual template because it makes it easier for me to actually do this. This is my first observation, so this is really helping me understand how to become an efficient and effective administrator. So um, I'm not going to lie, I am being honest. This is a very big challenge for me, but I'm willing to learn. So I think, like one of the administrators told me, it's like the best thing is that practicing it and doing it often will actually help you get better at it. So it makes and you become quicker in finding the things that you need to look for and really are there to help you out. So um, I look forward to conducting the observation. In order to conduct the actual observation, I had to come in and talk with my colleague about what would he be teaching for that day, and he told me there he follows the a book where it's a really great book for him to teach Spanish, and he's on chapter 2A, and the topic for that chapter is the school day. So for the most part, he gave me insight on how he teaches and how he follows his curriculum. He basically, every time the start of a unit, they go over vocabulary and the grammar that they will be uh, learning for that unit. So in this unit, he will be teaching about vocabulary that is associated with the school. So some of the vocabulary, he gave me a vocabulary list of some of the words he'll be teaching, and these words are associated with how to talk about your school day. So learning your class schedule, your the actual name of your classes, for instance, social science or science, which is ciencias naturales, or educación física, which is physical education. Um, so yeah, and then to describe school activities, um, to talk about things you need for school, such as dictionary for Spanish, um, or another case here, another topic is to describe your classes. Is it easy? Is it hard? Is it interesting? And then some other useful words would be like, the word quién, who, um, and so forth. So, in the grammar concepts for this chapter, they'll be learning the subject pronouns, and in Spanish there are various Spanish, there's various subject pronouns, and which are very important in order when the students later on get to actually um, get to conjugation, they need to know their actual subject pronouns, and those are things like I, you, he, she. In Spanish, yo, tú, él, ella, usted, and how to conjugate as well AR verbs. So, well, for that day specifically, he's will be conducting various activities that are associated with the school. So I am going to describe those activities for you so you could understand what he will be teaching. So for that day, like I said, the objectives are um, discuss the school day, ask and tell about likes and dislikes, learn to use subject pronouns, and learn to use verbs that end in a endings. So one of the activities here we're looking at, it's a speaking activity, which in Spanish, that's an important skill that needs to be acquired, and that's probably the most essential one. Um, I mean, you want to take Spanish because you want to actually use it. So one of the ways he mentioned that he actually conducts his classes, making sure that when he's in the lab that the kids are actually engaging and communicating and verbally speaking. So this activity, it's a speaking activity, and where the students discuss speak about homework in a personalized context. So um, the activity here, it's mucha tarea, and the instructions are to, with their partner, ask and tell if you have a lot of homework in each class. So in this case, for instance, they gives a set of classes and they have to follow the model, which the model is asking, uh, do you have a lot of homework and math class? And you have to answer, yes, I have a lot of homework, or no, I do not have a lot of homework, or I do not have math class. So I'll be an example. So person A has to come in and ask the initial question. Person A would be asking, do you have a lot of homework in whatever class? So and then person B would actually just answer that question. So they're going back and forth. So each student reviews the objects represented, and in the kids actually take turns. So one is asking, one is responding, and then once they go through the actual activity, they switch roles. So now the person B gets to ask, and person A gets to actually answer and reply. So what this helps them, the students actually um, engage in speaking and in a context form. And again, it's vocabulary associated with school, so homework is a big topic in Spanish class. Obviously, um, they they do a lot of homework, and that's what they do. So that's one of the activities. Another activity that he told me is that they're going to be writing. And this activity, they personally, it's asking about likes and dislikes. So the students will be writing and comparing class preferences in a personal context. Um, so the answers will vary in this activity. So and the instructions for this activity are write sentences stating which of the two classes you like better and why. Use a list of adjectives to help you with your response. Save your paper for activity 8. So, adjectives. That's a topic that he has taught, and he actually eh, will be reviewing such adjectives or remind them of what these adjectives are. So in this activity, they have to write. So they'll be writing in their binders in their notebook. So um, the example they have here is, for instance, they give them a class. So in this case, inglés, español. So you gotta make a comparison. Um, Me gusta más la clase de español. So es divertida. So what you gotta do is, which class do you like more? Which class do you prefer? So in the model they have Spanish and English, and the person will say, I like Spanish class more. It's fun. Or me gusta más la clase español, no es aburrida, which means it's not boring. The other part would be no me gusta ni la clase español ni la clase de inglés. So they're producing a response to the question or response to the actual statement, which what do they prefer? Do they prefer English? Do they prefer Spanish? So in this activity you have 6 uh, options to write about, um, and different classes you have to um, choose from. So the kids could prefer art over education, physical education, or English versus math, science versus social science, and music versus technology. So they have all these options to write about, and they just have to tell what do they prefer, which class over what, and why, basically, which is there is where the adjective is being utilized to describe the class. I like math class. It is fun. I like Spanish. It's not boring. I like um, technology class because it's easy. Whatever the case. So in this activity, there will be writing. So these activities will help the students really develop their speaking and writing capabilities. Now, the teacher told me that in such activities, he encourages the students to go beyond what they they have to produce for the writing and speaking part. So they don't necessarily have to follow the model to 100%. They could add more information. So when the students see the words in the activity, they could create phrases beyond what the model suggests. So another question I asked my colleague was, how does he conduct the class, the timing, how long are his warm-ups, how long is the actual teaching, how long do they have to actually practice and do class work. So he follows a model where the first 10 minutes of class is used to do the bell ringer. And sometimes the bell ringer is just simply, hey, going over the homework from the previous day. It could sometimes be a quick, easy, straightforward quiz over vocabulary recognition or grammar quiz. And after they go over the warm up, they go into the actual the lesson and what will be taught that day. And so he goes over the vocabulary for the unit and then goes into the activities. What he does at the end is make sure that the kids understand what's their homework and actually wraps up and does a verbal exiting type of exit ticket. So um, and in all, it takes about 15 minutes. The classes at Stafford are really just 50-minute classes, so it's based on that. So warm up, um, teach, practice, and exit. Ahí, Recently, I conducted an observation of one of my colleagues. Again, he teaches Spanish 1, so I was able to go into his classroom and observe um, the lesson he was teaching for that day. Going by the Gibbs reflective cycle, one of the first things to describe is what happened, what did I do, and so what I ended up doing that day, I walked into the classroom. The kids seemed engaged. The teacher was teaching, and what I first had to do was go sit down somewhere where I could observe everything that was going on. Um, Obviously, the kids got distracted for a second when I walked in because um, I'm not an administrator. I'm another teacher. So the teacher actually took the time to introduce me, and and right after that, I just sat back in the back of the room and started observing him. So one of the first few things that I saw was what was displayed in the classroom. Did the teacher have the objectives, the essential questions, the ELPs? So I was looking for things like as well like the agenda. So what would they going to be doing for the day? So I did that observation. So the teacher indeed had this information displayed on the board. He had the ELPs with where these which mentioned that the learners will properly pronounce vocabulary associated with school, and the objectives for the day that which were discuss the school day and asked and tell about likes and dislikes. So that information was indeed displayed in the on the board. So another thing that I looked for was how were the kids interacting? How were they managing themselves? So for the most part, what I observed, the kids, like I said, they seemed engaged. Seems like the kids were not off task. They were participating in the activities that was going on. I got into the lesson halfway through the class, so the kids were already working on some of the activities. They had already done the warm up and that stuff. So what he calls the warm up. the teacher, he calls it registro. So that was also displayed on the board. Other things I looked for were the setting. How was the classroom um, set? And the seats were the desks were arranged in rows, facing the projector that was displayed in front of the class. Um, his other things, the arrangement, such as the layout where the trash can was located, the pencil sharpener and such things. What he has the students do when they walk in, they have a section in the back where they could uh, put their backpacks so that way when they're walking around the classroom, no one trips over them. There is a classroom set of books, and they're in the cabinets in the back of the room, and the kids are able to use those textbooks when they are doing these activities. So, yeah. So one of my observations was, when I sat down, the students were quiet down and were listening to the teacher, um, and and really were participating in the activities. So yeah. Well, so what was he teaching? Like I mentioned before, he was teaching um, information on school. So classroom schedule, what the classes are, what are the classes in Spanish, um, as well as if they like a class or don't like a class. So that's what they were working on for the most part. So going with the checklist that I used to observe, this is some of the stuff that I wrote down um, while I was doing the observation. So the warm up, like I said, registro. He had tienes mucha tarea en la clase de. So that's a question that's being asked, and the kids have to answer. Sí, tengo mucha tarea. No, no tengo mucha tarea. He had left a blank so the kids could actually fill in the blank with a different class. So tienes mucha tarea en la clase de. So whatever the class was, they were to answer that. So like I said, so students were engaged during the activity. Another thing that I noticed was music being played uh, quietly in the background. This is while they were doing activities, they have music. So when the kids are independently working on the activity, that the teacher is playing Latin music in the background. So this is a very authentic type of way to have a great culture, um, ambience environment for the students who are learning Spanish. So, well, I'm gonna go ahead and mention the things that I checked up and what I saw. So the evidence for this piece. So um, the instruction was pretty much a direct instruction. Um, he was alternating with whole and small group activity. So the kids again were doing these speaking and writing activities. And the students were actually participating. Now, so he did was teaching in a manner of a lecturing presentation, but when they were doing the activities, the kids were actually doing it on their own while he monitored them and walked around the classroom, making sure that they were actually indeed doing the activity. So he was modeling, reteaching some of, like I said, some of the adjectives that he reviewed to do one of the activities that was mentioned earlier was dealing with adjectives. So, yeah. So, how was he checking for learning and understanding? Well, verbal questioning. So he would ask questions. What is what is how do you say technology class, or how do you say social studies class? And that way is a reminder for them if the kids pretty much were not shouting it, but speaking out loud, and as you asked, they would answer as a group. So total group response. Um, yeah. So again, when they were doing their activity, they were writing it down, and he was monitoring the student practicing. Um, the uses of technology really was very limited. Again, they were working off of a textbook, and he was modeling via the projector through a document camera. But I didn't really see much usage of technology other than besides using the projector and the document camera. Um, well, he did indeed actually did a great job with it, but and he actually was displaying the activities on the board so that way and modeling and giving the examples, written examples on the displayed on the projector so that the kids could follow that model when they were independently practicing on these activities. Um, so that's pretty much the technology aspect of that. Um, now, going back to how was the class being taught? It was obviously being taught as a whole class, asking and responding to questions. The kids were listening and taking notes and stuff. So um, he encouraged a lot of the students to participate and practice speaking. One of the fundamentals of learning a language is actually speaking. So and that's what he encouraged a lot. So um, these activities were tailored to that. When the kids were able to actually practice on their own, um, they were independently writing these activities and then sharing with the partner um, what they were doing. Now, the level of instruction, like I said, it's a basic Spanish course, so a lot of the learning is straightforward vocabulary recognition. What does this word mean in English and Spanish? So um, just remembering, understanding, applying. Really not going into levels of cognitive high cognitive levels, but it was sure enough a more of a basic understanding. But this is just this lesson, so I don't know if he incorporates literature or anything like that into the lesson. But um, just in this particular day, it was more of a lower level and just producing this information from these activities. Um, so how many the activities he did for the day were three different activities. One was speaking, the other one was writing, and then the other one again went back to speaking and stuff. So, how the teacher presented these were, well, he would model and actually give instructions on what they were supposed to do. So he would tell them, okay, write down your um, write down numbers 1 through 6 on your paper, and then he would display, okay, this is what you got to write down, this is what you got to say, and so the kids would write that and then actually practice. And, and he was good and actually timing these exercises. He would give them 5 minutes to write it down, and then about 5 7 minutes to practice speaking, and then he would switch partners, and that's basically what he was doing throughout these activities. And so the first activity that he went over was again what was it what how much homework do you have in a particular class, and whether the class is how is it describing the class. So um, so that's what he ended up doing for that class. For the second activity, he was like, what class do you like more? So, ¿qué te gusta más? And in this activity, they were comparing class preferences. And so they would say, I like English more than Spanish. I like um, social studies more than science. And so that was the second activity. The third activity he did was um, with a partner, ask and tell which classes from activity setting you like best and why. So now, in this case, it was I like this particular class because it I can use the computer for this. For example, the technology class. I like this class more because I'm able to use the computer. I like Spanish because I love learning about culture or other languages. I like social studies because I like history and things like that. So that was activity eight, and it's speaking activity. So and the focus was making comparisons using más que. So that was the focus for the activity. Um, Classroom appearance, like I said, it was organized, neat, uncluttered. Learning goals and data were displayed, and he had other posters on the wall that really just help the students. Like, for example, he has the verb conjugation charts for AR, ER, IR verbs that really help students who have troubles conjugating. Um, they were displayed. So visual support learning. Classroom management. Well, this teacher particularly, he's a coach, and he it seems like the kids behave pretty well. I don't know if it has to do with the coaching aspect of it, but his class seems engaging. The kids do not are not misbehaving, so it is safe and orderly. It's a safe and orderly environment. Uh, Being the first day, it is the routines and procedures are evident. Um, Positive behaviors reinforced. Negative behaviors addressed through redirecting. Teacher manages proactively and calmly. Teacher displays energy, enthusiasm, and time is used effectively and efficiently. And the classroom culture seems respectful. Students demonstrate mutual respect towards each other. So this is what occurred during the day. So feelings towards the observation. Um, Being my first time doing this, being the first time I conducted such a observation. Um, it happened so quickly. I mean, like I had advice on what to look for, but I just had troubles writing down what examples of what was going on. So what really to look for, and it was difficult. But I feel like as you practice more again, you will actually get better at it. So. I look for it and conducting other observations, but indeed, it's a learning experience. The evaluation piece, what was good and bad about the experience? Well, um, I think it was more good than bad, because again, it's my first time doing this, and it's a learning experience, and becoming an administrator, you got to be able to evaluate and um, be able to give good feedback to the teacher, so that way they can improve their teaching skills. But bad about it, well, other than being my first time, I think I know there's room for improvement, and I know I could get better at it. And so I guess that would be the only bad thing, that I'm not really experienced with making observations, and what exactly to look for specifically. Um, what sense do I make of the situation? Well, I liked it. I really enjoyed observation. Now I did feel a little weird, just you know playing the role of an administrator and walking into a classroom and just observing the teacher. I mean, I don't know if as when I get evaluated as a teacher, I know anytime when the administrator walks in, your anxiety can rise or stress goes up, um, um, but because I'm not administrator, I think the teacher just continued teaching the way he did, and did a great job doing that. Um, Conclusion. What else could I have done? Well, I think if I had a or if I have applied more of the advice that I was given to me to conduct such a observation, I think I would have done a better job at it. Um, Now, next time, I think I perhaps will just be more detailed about what I comment and write on my checklist, and really just focus on what the teacher does, and look for, you know, what students are getting off task, and really jotting that down and giving those examples. Um, so that if I was given another chance to observe that, that's definitely what I would look for. And, yeah. So this is the end of my video. I really appreciate the opportunity for conducting such an observation. And well, thank you again.